Welcome to Lighthouse, Homeschooling in Oregon with Ocean Network.
Welcome back, everybody. We are back with Sheri English. We're going to talk a little bit more about homeschooling high school. She is a homeschool mom of many here in Oregon, and this is the part 2. So make sure you catch part 1 and you can look at the show notes for that. How about life skills? Because there's lots of academics and their interests and everything, but what life skills were did you make sure that you taught them before they flew the nest?
Yeah, a lot. So, like I was saying earlier, when I was growing up, I didn't really learn to do chores. My mom did everything. She made our beds, she
Mhm.
cooked all the food. I hardly helped with cleanup. I hardly did anything. And so when we started having children, I vowed I was not going to be like my mom, and my kids were going to do stuff for themselves. And so it was a hard journey, even as a young adult, for me to learn how to clean and make myself clean because I'd never had to make myself do that before.
Mhm.
It's amazing how children having kids pushes you to do things you wouldn't even choose to
Yeah,
do, right?
no kidding.
Eat your vegetables and everything else that I wasn't doing until I realized that, oh, I'm the example. And if I want my kid to learn this and be this kind of a person, then I better get on the ball and I got to do something about that. And I
Mhm.
got to do this. So from a young age, I would have the kids help with laundry, folding clothes, putting their own clothes away, helping with meal chores. And so then we had animals, we had farms and at different points and outside animals, chickens and stuff. And so kids learned how to do outside chores. Um, but by the time they're in high school, right? So we're expecting them, they're doing their own laundry. I mean, I went off to college. I didn't know how to run a washing machine. I was 18. So I was like, no way, my kids are going to learn how to do this. So they know how to run a washing machine, take care of their own laundry, steam their own clothes, a little bit of sewing, uh, meal prep. All my kids learned how to make food. My teenage boys make great pizzas. They always have. All of them did. I had a plan. Well, it wasn't always maybe the greatest plan, but I tried to have a meal plan. I had set nights for certain things. Now it's like Monday night's crockpot night, Tuesday night's taco night. So when you have a lot of kids, you need more structure. You just
Mm.
can't get away with winging it as much when you have a big family. So we had more structure and kids had, before meal chores, after meal chores and meal prep and all that they had to learn how to do. So being successful in life skills meant you knew how to cook food. You knew what was nutritious. You understood about good health. And besides all the chore part, some of the other things we felt important, like for the boys especially, knowing how to take care of a car, knowing how to change the oil, um, check tire pressure, all those kind of things. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and girls, maybe more on the sewing area and home ec stuff. Uh,
Or how to charge a dead battery. That's something that
yeah,
I'm making sure my girls know how to do too.
yeah, I didn't really know how to do that. Never had to change a tire. That wasn't my job.
Yeah.
So, but at
Yeah.
least for the boys, had to learn that part. But there's definitely
Mhm.
we wanted them to hopefully have honed in some kind of skill or talent that they have to make money at.
Mhm.
So we let them have jobs when they were as young as needed, whether that was 12, 13, if they had a little side farm job, or
Mhm.
we had a friend back in Colorado that had a fundraising business. And so, like folding flyers, folding newsletters, handing out things. So, learning a good work ethic was super important. They had to know how to write a resume, had to do an interview. To us, those were some of the, besides all the academic things, but the life skills of really knowing how to operate in society and hopefully be the light of Jesus as you do it.
Mhm.
So, the
Yeah.
character is super important. I mean, you work on it in the younger years, and by the time they're older, a lot of their character's already formed, and so it doesn't mean you still can't try to direct them in certain ways where I mean, we see all the weaknesses, right? Parents, we see the weaknesses in each of our kids, and so trying to be thoughtful about that, planning what activities or situations might help them grow in a certain character area that they're lacking in.
Mhm.
Um, trying to keep track of that. Having Tim and I actually have weekly meetings together. So, once a week, we're meeting to talk about planners, scheduling for the week for each of us and our family, and then talk about the kids. How are they doing? What
Mm,
seeing? Who needs to work on what? What struggles are we having? We also had twice a year, we would have, like, a little retreat where we were specifically talking about homeschooling and character
mm.
to the kids and things that they needed to grow in and what we thought they would need the next year or the next session. Um, yeah, that's
That's a great idea.
it is really helpful getting away from the kids, and actually lots of times I would bring a bunch of the curriculum with me and then
Mhm.
look stuff up or just talk about it. There was a book was published years ago called "What Your Child Needs to Know When" by Robin Sampson. I think she got remarried, but that book was K to eighth grade, but it had charts in it of academically all the benchmarks your kids should know how to do in each subject area. And then
Mm,
in the back of the book, it had character and spiritual fruits and discipline. And there were these charts you could fill out on each copy for each of your kids and evaluate. It's like it wasn't something you were going to give to them necessarily,
right.
but it was a tool that parents could use to help evaluate how's my kid doing? Do they pay attention? Do they have a teachable spirit? Are they
Mm.
carefully doing their chores? Um, Things like that. And so we would use that. I didn't use it very regularly, I would say, but at least it was something I used.
Well, I know that when parents are teaching high school, there's a lot of pressure, and some of it's internal. We put
Mm.
pressure on ourselves, and some of it's from outside or others or, society or whatever. What pressures do you think the homeschool parents should ignore when it comes to homeschooling the high school years?
I think you need to ignore the pressure to do everything.
Hmm.
Like I have seen it since we started homeschooling Deborah years ago in the late 90s till now. The pressure to do everything has just increased over all these years of homeschooling. There's been so many more activities that homeschoolers can choose to do. There's so many classes they can do. It's overwhelming, and I think it's taking
Mm.
away from the family unit. Even we have
Yeah.
fallen into it. But the pressure in the high school years to do everything or to be everything to your kid, you can't be everything to your teen. Everybody's at a
Mhm.
different stage of life, and it's to be confident enough at where you're at and seeking the Lord for the direction of your family, just letting God direct your homeschool, right? Directing you and your husband into the choices and the decisions you make about the direction of your family, the direction of your kids, but letting your teens, obviously they need to have quite a bit of input by that point, by the time they're in their later high school years, as to what they enjoy, what classes they do want to take. There's some requirements you're going to have for them, but there needs to be a lot of freedom to help them.
Mhm. So, what are some common mistakes that you see that homeschool parents make in high school?
So, one common mistake I see is parents maybe just listening to their high schoolers say, "Hey, I don't want to go to college. I don't really need that. Can I just be done schooling? Can I quit or whatever? I don't need these last few classes." And you don't want to cave to that as a parent. It's super important that they finish well, and that even if they're saying now they don't want to go to college, it doesn't mean that someday God might not do something else in their life and they need to go on to college.
Mhm.
Having a transcript for your high schooler when they graduate is extremely important. And I think parents do a disservice to their students when they don't create a transcript for them and let them have that document that will prove to future employer, a school, that they learned something and they completed things. It's really, really important. It's important to create that high school diploma when your child is graduated and actually hand it to them. I feel like it's important to actually do a ceremony. We've had our kids do ceremonies Sometimes that was in a support group setting, but it's important for them to actually feel like they completed it. They got rewarded, right? You took the time to make that transcript for them and make it look professional and legitimate. Not that it has to be professional. I just got a free form off the internet and then filled it in, and I've used the same form for every kid. And it doesn't have to be, mine are just by the year. I don't even do semester 1 and semester 2. I just did 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. That is super important. The other thing I think I see that kind of goes along with that parents make as a mistake is allowing your child to graduate early. I'm not saying it's a mistake for everybody, but that just seemed to me to be one thing I was never going to do. That I wanted to make sure my kids were at home with me for as long as needed, as long as possible, that they'd be under our care, under our home of protection, and to help them make wise choices still giving them opportunities in other settings to learn, but not just letting them go when they're 16.
Yeah. Well, looking back after graduating multiple children, what would you say to a mom who was just entering the season? Like, what to kind of sign us off? What sort of piece of advice would you leave her with?
You could absolutely do it. Nothing is impossible with God. If he's calling you to homeschool through high school, then he will give you all the tools you need to be able to do that. And you just need to stay close to the Lord, keep seeking him for every child, for every direction, whether that's what class they're going to take or what job they're going to have, that it's important to stay close to the Lord and trust him, right? That's
Yeah,
the most
amen.
important thing.
Thanks for listening to Lighthouse, Homeschooling in Oregon with Ocean Network. Don't forget to send us your questions, and make sure to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with other Oregon homeschool families. Join us again next time as we continue encouraging and informing homeschoolers across Oregon for the Lord Jesus Christ.